Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of One Soccer Happy Hour. Annie Petrillo, Carmelina Moscato, Laura Armstrong. We're with you all the time and pleased to be joined by a very special guest today. That is two-time Olympic bronze medalist, Pan Am bronze medalist, represented Canada at 3 World Cups. That would be Melissa, aka Tancredi. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic. Thanks for having me. Good intro.
I know. There we go. That's why I get paid the so bucks. So really happy to have you with us because I feel like we're going to cover a lot of decades with you. Because, I mean that in a good way.
Wow.
And we're off to a great start.
There you go. There it is. Man Winter here. Good.
I say that because you can take it. You're very experienced and you're very wise. But before we get to that, I do have to ask, where are you during self-isolation? What are you up to? What's keeping you busy?
I am in Vancouver, lovely Vancouver. It's gray sky today, but it's been sunny, I swear, up until this point. Not working, clinics closed, and it was hard. I was quarantining off of the women's camp in France. So I was quarantining off of that alone for 14 days. So that was a bit hard. And finally, about a month into it, my partner came. So now I have another person to annoy. So it's been good.
Well, okay. So you mentioned being with Team Canada. So we're going to get into you being a chiropractor, being a part of the national team, but this is also your business. So maybe you can kind of give us the personal story as well, just being a small business owner and kind of how life has been for you right now with that and being an entrepreneur and trying to keep that going.
Yeah, it's been definitely extremely difficult. Obviously, totally new to us. We're kind of at the mercy of health regulations. We decided as a whole for our community, even though we're essential service, to shut it down fully to help flatten the curve. And we've been shut down since March 16th, hoping, BC's done a great job of actually flattening the curve, and hopefully this will be lifting the, restrictions soon. We're hoping mid-May, but that's, I think, a little bit too hopeful, but good to be a little positive. But it's really hard, we've been in business for just over a year. So it's tough on small businesses, especially new small businesses, and commercial rent in Vancouver is pretty high. So keeping that all going and having the help of other people as well to kind of keep our business going. Knowing that some of our massage therapists can't even do telehealth during this time, so we've been offering telehealth to kind of continue some sort of treatment. But yeah, it's been extremely difficult. But as a business owner and as a practitioner, you just kind of have to wait it out and just hope that, we know that we're doing what is best for everyone right now.
Mm-hmm. No, it's very well said. I'm going to call you Melissa. No, that's weird. I'm going to call you Tank for this show. I'm going to stay natural with that. But Tank, so you were mentioning before, we actually spoke about the emergence of positivity from this. And you said there were some female leaders that are coming to the table, community efforts. So maybe tell us a little bit about that, specifically around the female leadership community.
Yeah, I think Vancouver is pretty special in that it is such a small knit community, and especially in the health and wellness business. And, I've been across many gyms when I first moved here, and getting to know different people and just having that support system outside of your clinic, and with small business owners, especially the female ones that, you can reach out to, and everyone's kind of in the same boat. So it's nice to hear there's a sharing of resources, an open ear to talk to, and, people sharing their plans more than ever. And it's just nice to have, female, male, people have got your back in this community. And it's nice to know that once the doors do open, that, we have a good group of people behind us to help us succeed.
Mm-hmm. Let's kick off some Olympic talk here. Why don't we get into that? Let's get into some of let's have some fun.
Let's do it.
Laura, why don't you start us off?
Okay, so we're going to start at the original, right? Why not start at the beginning? So take it back to 2008. Maybe not like the best ever, but what was it like to experience that for the first time? What did you go into it feeling like? How did you come out of it feeling like? I mean, it was the beginning sort of your Olympic journey. Like, what was that experience like for you?
I think it was a good segue talking about fun, because I felt like I was literally a visitor. Like I was just there I was there enjoying being in an Olympic Village, enjoying being amongst like the greatest of all times in every single sport, meeting Messi, Federer, Kobe Bryant. You know, these people are, you know, I'm at McDonald's because we were out a little early. So, you know, I'm in lines at McDonald's with some of these great athletes, and Serena Williams, Venus Williams, just that's all I remember, to be honest, of the games. I remember losing, of course, but I wasn't heartbroken by any means. Obviously I was upset. But that Olympic Games, I don't think we expected to be winning anything in general. Very excited to be there for the first time. And I think we were kind of distracted. I think it was the best Olympic Games by far to this date, socially. It had the greatest bars. It had the greatest like après performance times and pop-up bars. So that's where all the drama went down with all kinds of athletes. So it was extremely fun.
Yeah, I love how that's the how you remember the 2008 games. Oh, like the party? Awesome. Oh, were we there to play? Okay. Did you not?
Sorry, coach.
Well, you know what though?
It can be overwhelming though. I mean, I can see that. I can see how an experience like that, as much as it's wonderful to be in the athletes' village, because I think that's an experience that a lot of people talk a lot about, or they remember when it's their first Olympics. I can also see it being a little overwhelming and a distraction.
Yeah, I think, and if you thought about how Olympics are done now, you're not really, as soccer players, you're not really in the village. I think that was the last Olympics that you were actually submerged in the village and got to live there every single day. And absolutely, it's distracting. We had some teammates just go rogue. They were following Messi for like a whole day. Like we just, you know, like you just have, it's like a playground. There's so many different things within the village that you're not, you know, like drinking Coke and eating McDonald's and playing video games, and they had a little disco there. You know, there's so many things that can distract you. And when you're not doing well or losing, or you're out, you know, that becomes the next best thing.
I think you were sabotaged on purpose. I think the other teams, the disco was just for the Canadians.
Yeah. It sounds interesting. I mean, it definitely wasn't, well, my first and only Olympics was with you in 2012, the epic one. It's so funny to hear the difference of experiences, because I actually don't even think I've ever asked you about how 2008 was. So that's interesting to hear. But, you know, in all seriousness, it is actually part of the experience, is like learning how to deal with all the distractions and still compete at the highest level. It's genuinely hard when there's McDonald's literally right there. So it's all about discipline. But we're going to dive into 2012. Just, you know, obviously we all have our memories of that unbelievable 2 weeks of our lives. Crazy to think it was only 2 weeks. But how do you remember 2012? What stands out to you? What were some of the things that, you know, when people ask you, what's top of mind?
Still, I think, honestly, one of the greatest, if not the greatest memory of my lifetime so far. I think, you know, that game against the US, obviously epic in the fact that it went through the highest of highs and the lowest of lows and put us through the ringer. But what it did for this country, for this sport, for our team, I think that's the incredible part. And hearing stories, for me, it's hearing stories still to this day. I'm still meeting people to this day that it's 2020 and they're still talking about something that happened 8 years ago, and they can remember exactly what happened and, you know, what TV they were throwing things at or what they were swearing and you know, like things that they were saying. And it's so visceral, that experience. I think that's what I remember about 2012, how emotionally connected it was and how absolutely gut-wrenching it was at the same time.
Yeah, like highest of highs, lowest of lows for sure. And, you know, the one thing that always stands out, and you've said it already, is sort of the culture around that group. But I don't know if you remember, like for me, social media wasn't a big deal at that point. And I don't know how that would have affected our journey. I know that's a little bit of off topic, but it's a weird one because I think I had a flip phone. I mean, I don't know what was going on.
Motorola flip phone?
I don't know what you were doing, but I was tweeting. I was for sure tweeting. I tweeted after that US game and I got demolished on Twitter.
Oh, you did?
So,
what did you tweet?
I remember that.
Yeah. I just tweeted a Melissa Tancredi type of tweet. I said something like, my mom always taught me that something like you earn things in life or something like that. It was like, and then it just like blew up.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I don't remember that, but that's interesting that you interacted with Twitter.
US soccer fan Twitter is an interesting place to put yourself in the middle of.
Yeah.
Learn
like,
that lesson.
So the truth then, how badly did you want to punch Ambi Wambach?
You know what? For me, it was more the ref.
Yeah.
Abby was being typical Abby. I think she was being smart, to be honest. If that was my leader, absolutely, she's doing the right thing. Annoying as it is, I think the ref made some crazy calls and really ruined the game, in my opinion, and just changed the momentum and made it really hard for us. I feel like we were coming out of a pit every single time we were up. So for me, it's still the ref. Like that, I feel like she was over her head, but who knows? I could be wrong.
No, you're definitely not
wrong. You have a lot of people who are on your side on that one. But let's go to your third Olympics. So we've gone to 2008, first Olympics, soaking in that experience, to 2012, getting on the podium, getting the bronze. I had a chance just last week to speak with Christine Sinclair, and she said 2012, that medal was everything, right? Like now you can call yourself an Olympic medalist. Then she said 2016 was a bit of a different story, in that she remembers sitting beside Desiree Scott after bronze. And, Desiree apparently was just looking at her medal. And, Christine just said, what are you thinking? And she's like, I'm so mad at this medal because I really felt like these were the games that it could have been a different color. Did you share that same sentiment? How did Rio 2016 go for you?
I think for me, it told two stories. For me personally, I just had a different individual journey to get there. But the team story, absolutely a disappointment. I think we went there going for gold. We went there with the best team we've ever had. We went there beating top tier teams in basically making history and breaking every sort of obstacle or anything that people put in front of us. We just smashed through. So that kind of momentum makes you think this is it. Mm-hmm. And that semifinal game against Germany, obviously extremely disappointing because we had beaten them. But again, how hard is that to do twice, right? It's insane, right? But for me personally, I think just knowing my journey, coming back from school after 2.5 years of taking time off of soccer, having a crap World Cup, basically playing at 60% of my capacity, and taking the whole year to get back to some sort of myself or a new version of myself, and to have that kind of tournament and to kind of finish on top-ish for me, meant a lot. And it meant a lot, scoring against Germany, being able to wear that captain's band. But absolutely, I think individually, I have so many good memories of Rio, and that I proved to myself that I could come back from basically sitting for 2 years and being a student for 2 years. But as a team, absolutely, I agree with Desi, and I agree with Sinky. Absolute disappointment. That was our year.
When you look at 2015 and that World Cup, and then having to make that progression to come back to 2016, I mean, you easily could have said after 2015, I'm done. Like I'm calling it now. What does it take to put yourself through that, to get from that 60 to that 100? I mean, arguably you scored 2 of the most important goals of your career in Rio in that Germany game, right? Like that was, I mean, you had incredible performance in 2016, but what did it take for you to actually get there?
It took a lot of lows, to be honest, a lot of terrible nights, a lot of alone time that, it was necessary, but I felt alone, even with people around me supporting me. I felt very alone after that World Cup performance. And it took a lot of help from outsiders. I did a lot of training on my own. I sourced out a guy here, a longtime friend, who helped me with my finishing in the box and some footwork, and really put in the work for conditioning, and did the extra work. And even in my team in Sweden, I was, doing fitness before training. This is what it took for me mentally. I knew that the things that I needed to improve on were my finishing and my conditioning. Everything else I kind of had down. But I just really needed to turn that corner in terms of, getting my fitness level up. And then after that, everything would fall into place. But to be honest, I had a broken relationship from that. There's so many terrible things that happened because of that, and needed to happen. And it ended up being a rebuilding process for me in a small amount of time. So I think everything was heightened because I think there was only 9 months in between tournaments. So yeah.
Well, There's definitely something about that pursuit, willing to put everything on the line to go for it again. I mean, it takes a lot of bravery to do what you did. And, Rio, for me, those 2 goals, like, you'll never forget it. It's part of Canadian soccer history, if not Canadian history in sport. So honestly, that header, like, it just replays in my head. It's so cool what you were able to do.
Well, first time Canada beat Germany, which is also really impressive. But you mentioned the lows, and I find this, it's interesting because what motivated you? Because as you said, you took 2 years off because you wanted to focus on school and get that degree. And, a couple of weeks ago, we had Claire Rustad on, and she explained as well how she had to make that decision about then going the medical school route. And then she said goodbye to her career, which you could argue that, she retired at a fairly young age. But what motivated you that would even get you through those lows, right? Because we all know, even athletes, you take 2 weeks off, it's tough to come back. Never mind, 2 years. What was the driving motivation?
Other than me.
Yeah, for sure, Carm. I saw what kind of specimen Carm was, and I was like, I want to be her. No, it was that team, to be honest, to be able to play with those players in that team and have another chance at another Olympics. That was 1. 2, it was the fact that we weren't done. London 2012 was just the beginning to me, and there was unfinished business, especially the 2015 World Cup. There's unfinished business there for me personally, and as the team, was progressing, I wanted to be a part of it. I knew I was going to play a different role. By the end of this whole fiasco, I ended up playing a pretty decent role. But I thought it was going to be a totally different role. And I was on board with just being a mentor for the new young kids. And I think that's what motivated me, is the fact that, my roommate at the time was Maria Knoll, who was signing on as just to be an alternate. And we were basically saying that we had the opportunity to be a part of something so special. We've never won 2, we just won our first medal. We've never won 2 medals in our sport. And in this country, I think it was the first team sport to do it. And to be able to have that opportunity, there's no way I was going to let that down. And it would have had to be physical for me. It would have had to be something that would have totally broken me for me to say, okay, I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're happy you came back, because then you stood on the podium again, and it's a great story. We're going to take a little break in the action here and have some fun. Okay. Now, normally people, they tune in between 5 and 6, hence the name of the show, Happy Hour. This is now 9 p.m. Eastern that we started. No, I'm not drinking coffee. There's
good on you, Laura.
Something else going on in here. So having a little fun. I'm going to kick things off. So Melissa, I'm going to go, then Carm's going to go, then Laura, and then I'll kind of wrap it on up. So, feel free to answer quickly. We call it rapid fire, or feel free to give an answer that maybe needs an explanation, right?
Okay.
Because the first one here, I'm going to ask you, who's the toughest player to play against, and why?
Ooh, Abby Wambach. Just, she's a beast. She was always a beast on set pieces. I always had to mark her. She was mentally strong. She was basically everything that, you looked up to in my position. So.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yes. All right. The biggest goal of your career to you, not to me, because I already said mine.
I think it's going to be surprising. I think for me, it was the second goal against Sweden in the group phases of London.
Yes.
That I think hit here.
It counts.
All skill.
It all counts.
Yeah.
Really fun.
Very good answer.
Yeah. All right, Laura, what do you got?
We asked one of your former teammates this, and we have an interesting question. So if you lie, you might be in trouble. But who is the best prankster, was the best prankster on the women's national team?
You gotta say it myself.
What was your
We
best
heard the rumors.
We heard rumors. What was the best one?
I think for me, I feel so bad. I hid in Cyprus, they made these like full cream pies. Who knows how much dairy was in there. And I hid it in Chelsea Stewart's room for I think it was days. And the smell, I can't tell you the smell. That was my favorite prank. But I think the most epic prank, I think that will go down in history, was the one against John. That was ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Is that the one where you and Rand pretended to get into a fight?
Me and Alicia Chapman.
Oh,
it's funny because yeah, we had a real altercation like 3 days prior. And I think that's why John was just like, I think he was dying. Absolutely dying.
Wait, I'm
did
trying
you
to figure
tell
out where the pie was though. Like,
Yeah, did you tell her that like
No,
no,
so
you find it?
I put it up, like I opened the closet and put it up, you know, like in hotels they have like where they put the slippers up top. I put it up there, and it was I had to get it because the smell was actually so bad. Like it killed the whole floor. It was terrible. Like curdling.
I remember that. I shared that with the group, but they didn't believe me. I'm glad you brought that up. I couldn't remember who you did it to, but I remember the smell. So thanks for that.
The smell was terrible. You're welcome, Carm.
that just sounds horrible. I don't know if I would like that at all.
Ruthless.
I know. So what would you say was the most angry you've ever been in your career?
Thank God not in life. It would have to be that semifinal game, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You could see it.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right. Well, note to self, if ever there's like a group travel or something that we do, I'm checking the upper parts of my closet because I cannot handle that. All right. So let's get into kind of what I was alluding to when we started all of this, and that, you know, I see you as a pioneer in the sport as well. You know, beginning in the early 2000s, and definitely before, you know, the NWSL came in, and it, you know, ended up being this league that we see that is flourishing, and we're seeing a lot more players, Canadian women, going on over to Europe and playing. And you did that too in your career. But I'm curious what you guys were discussing in the earlier parts, in the early 2000s, about seeing a viable league for women. Where did you envision the sport on a professional level being for women? What were those early day conversations?
Yeah, I think early days, it was hard because it was limited, right? There was limited leagues, mostly European leagues at that time. I know we discussed a little bit about having a league here in Canada around 2008. We were hoping that, you know, that's when things would start rolling around with the, you know, the Whitecaps being a big club, and having a women's team at that time. But, you know, it was sad because for me, I saw many, I think 3 US leagues basically go under, different names popping up. And I think we're on the 3rd league, correct, Carm? I think, you know, just seeing these leagues go in and out, and not having a sustainable, basically, foundation, it's disheartening as a professional, or as someone who's hoping to be a professional one day. And I think what we wanted was basically, we wanted something at home. We wanted a home league. We wanted a home team represented in a league, and we were hoping that we'd have that, you know, at least by 2012. And then by 2012, that's when the conversation just really heightened, and we were like, okay, this is it. This is the step. We're gonna make it happen. But it's nice to see that other countries are jumping on board and understanding the importance of it, and really developing their own leagues. But really sad to see, you know, we're lacking in that side.
Yeah. It's I mean, as of today, you know, we've seen the history. We were part of the inception of the NWSL, which was fantastic. You know, 3 federations coming together to make sure that all the players at that time had a place to play in that quadrennial. It's safe to say it needs a pivoting strategy now, as we've kind of, I think I always say this, juice the jam out of NWSL, and it's probably appropriate for a few players. But how do you feel about the ones that have gone overseas? Like, what's the best environment for Canadians other than obviously our own? What is great for Canadians? What do you think is the best thing for the player today?
It's hard to say because, you know, I can only go by experience. And for me, my best experience was in Europe. But other players love the NWSL. I think it depends on, you know, what environment is professional, what environment is, you know, allowing you to financially support yourself, what environment has the resources that can allow you to grow as a player, whether it be physical, mental, any part of that, skill, foundational. And as long as you're finding that in an environment, that's where the best fit is. For me, it was in Europe. My happy place was always Sweden. For some reason, Sweden always made me happy. I always had my greatest seasons there. I grew as a player. There was something about a team and a league that kind of just allowed me to just do me. So for me, I think it's all based on the player. I know a lot of our players are loving the European leagues. I think the European leagues are doing a fantastic job of really making everything, like very professional across the board. And NWSL is getting there. It's definitely getting there, and it's definitely improved from day one. But hopefully, that standard continues to raise, and hopefully other countries continue to raise as well. Like you look at England 3 years ago, 4 years ago, they were nothing, and now they're probably one of the best leagues in the world. So that's kind of what I'm hoping. I just hope for a standardized professional environment across the world.
Yeah, I mean, you hear that from so many women athletes across any kind of sport. And, when we had Janine Becky on last week, there's also the benefit to aligning yourself with a men's pro team, and her being with Manchester City, being able to use those same facilities. So even when we talk about, the NWSL, it's still its own league, but perhaps Canada having its own league as well. Right away, you start to look at the MLS teams. And I mean, if you were to put a bow just even on how you've seen the sport grow for women compared to, the early 2000s, what do you see that you like? What do you see that you want improved?
Yeah, I think what I see that I like is that big clubs are stepping up. Big clubs that can make a difference, that can set the standards, that can push the envelope are stepping up. And that's in leagues across the world, not just in England, not just in France, you're seeing it now in NWSL as well. What I also like is, for example, in NWSL, people wanting to be a part of it, sponsors, Twitch, that just came on board to show every game, things like that. That's what you need in women's soccer. And what I want to see is that more exposure, more access to the games, more TV time, more media. And that all comes with more interest, and really doing a good job of, building these. In women's sports, is based on personalities, right? A lot of people want to connect with the people on their team. So it's just building those characters and building these timelines and really connecting communities with the players that they're involved with. And that's where the growth happens.
See, we need you to be controversial. I know you're a former player, that's fine, but just do something controversial. People love that. We could put it out on our Twitter and be like, see? And then there you go. You're getting all the attention.
Well, what we do need is a league here. So that would be fantastic. I don't know why I'm yelling, but that would be nice to see women's soccer in my own country. That would be phenomenal. It would be very nice to see.
Let's get t-shirts made. I'll wear it for sure. I would say that, your group, and Carm, you're included in this. So Carm, I want you to answer this one as well. You're the graduating class of players that we see transition into roles now that go beyond the player role, whether it's in management roles, coaching roles, whether it's part of the training staff, physio, chiropractor. We're starting to see that. How did that happen? And what does it mean for these roles to be available to women after they're done playing?
Well, I think how it happened was we were in a culture that was created by John and his staff at the time, and created this culture where they wanted the cyclical, not nature of it, but they wanted to keep players involved, keep women involved, keep mentors involved in the program and in women's soccer in general. So that opening, no one's ever spoken about that. No one, I think we had one player coach kind of do it on her own. But no one's ever spoken about kind of creating these pathways to different facets of our game. And once that was open, I personally jumped on board and just got in the ear of the staff. And I was like, listen, this is something I want to do. This is something I want to be a part of. Why wouldn't I want to continue to be with this team and to continue to add in any capacity that I can? And I think that happened with most of, the other players as well. You have fantastic role models stepping into coaching roles, stepping into cultural and leadership roles. It's what you want in a program. You want a program to continue to drive the same processes that you've kind of built with some great role models and great leaders. Mm-hmm. And I think what is so interesting to see now is that I can look ahead literally in only 2-3 years, and I can see a full head staff basically packed with our previous players. I can see a med staff, a cultural staff, tech staff. I can see, a peak staff, anything that you can think of around the team. I can easily see female females filling that role, and former players filling that role. And that for me is just opportunity. I think, Carm, we spoke about this. It's just people stepping up and able to give these opportunities to females. And I think that's where we thrive. If I was never given that opportunity, how the heck would I ever be here? I'd be knocking on, basically the ceiling of my potential. But as soon as somebody opened that up, I was like, okay, let's do this. I can do this. Why not?
Seems like this is something that you guys, that has obviously been created by John and by his staff around him. Are you seeing that more broadly? Are you seeing that happen in other areas of the game? Or do you think that that's kind of unique to this program? And do we need to continue to build those opportunities out elsewhere?
To be honest, I think it's kind of unique to our program. You do see a little bit of, a little bit of the same person kind of bouncing around.
Right.
But you don't see new fresh blood, a lot of it. You don't see a lot of new players, new faces kind of around. I think the US has done a good job, especially at the youth levels, of keeping people involved. But just, I don't really see that across the board in the numbers that Canada's doing it.
Right.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, Tank. And a lot of the things that stick out about what you said and the experiences sort of we've had after our playing career is, the idea that John allowed us to think bigger, to think about our capacity as people, that yes, translated to on the pitch 100% naturally. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to accomplish what we did as a program if we had not. But you're right. It's about actually that idea that you believe you can do it first. I know it sounds very juvenile or maybe even cliche, but there's something around all of us wanting to leave this sport better than we found it. And we would do anything to make that happen, whether we were wearing the jersey, us now in the real world. I don't know what you want to call it, but even now, all of us have this drive to do something that's never been done because we've already done it. And we want to do it again. It's almost like you crave that idea that you can change things for the better and help people. And I know you're doing that like crazy. And, it's a big thank you to the staff. I mean, this is the right time to say that. But, everybody that's gone on, even, it would be remiss not to talk about Karina LeBlanc. I mean, the chief of women's football for CONCACAF.
Yeah.
I mean, that's no joke. She's an incredible role model for all of us. So anyways, just to add on to what you said, Tank, it's incredible.
One thing that I wonder is, you mentioned lots of facets of the game. So we have, young girls who start playing soccer, say 5 or 6 years old, and then they get to a point where they realize this maybe is not going to be anything more than playing in a beer league for me, something that I do for fun. How do we open up, Karin, this is probably a question as much for you. How do we open up the idea of those facets of the game to young girls long before you're 20 and you're in an elite environment and somebody's saying to you, oh, here's an opportunity for you? How do we say, you could be a referee, you could be a coach? How do you stay in the game? Do we just have to keep them in sport, or are there other opportunities that we can introduce these options earlier?
I think one, we're taking a step in that we're offering, for example, female-only referee courses or female-only coaching courses, things like that, where you're actually creating these resources and safe spaces for people to learn. That's number one. Number two is you have to have people around them that they see, for example, myself or Carm as a coach, they can see, hey, she's a female, she's coaching. Hey, she's a female, she's a chiro. Hey, she's a female, she's doing my sports science. These are ways that you create this awareness, and it's almost like a familiarity and then a normalcy of why not, that. It's different if it was all males in all these positions. Of course, they wouldn't dream bigger than what they're given. And for me, that's kind of what it is. It's the awareness piece and it's the educational piece.
If you can see it, you can be it kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more serious question before we have another fun little rapid fire section here. Because every time, and correct me if I'm wrong, or if you've experienced the same thing, every time we have, or I've had these types of conversations about seeing more women take on management roles, coaching roles, and again, any kind of supporting role that is not on the field of play, I always get this, and tell me if this just makes your head pop off. Yeah, but we want to hire the best people.
Oh, man.
All right. And then I just, I don't know about you, but my eyes kind of do something like this. And I'm like, but what makes you assume? That's the thing. You're assuming a woman isn't the best person for the job. And that's what makes me want to punch someone. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's sad. It's so sad to hear it said in, the higher levels of our world. It's just, like, these are educated people. You think that, I respect them, and then they say something like that, and I'm like, come on. And that's where the toxic environment and the toxic language, that's where it begins. And yeah, you're right. That's crazy. I don't know. Well, it's all societal, right? It's all systematic. It's all these things that we grew up learning and we're taught this. So it's about people at that moment putting up your hand and speaking up against that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Carm, you want to say something on that?
Yeah, just I'll finish. I know we're moving on to rapid fire, but the last thing I'll say on that is I've done a lot of sort of research and I'm really curious about the quotas, right? Like where people are saying you have to have a certain amount of representation, female representation on boards and to ensure diversity of thinking and experiences and skill sets and all these things. So there's something around chicken and the egg. Like it's to have a female on the board might inspire, on boards where decisions are made, to hire more females. Those things, they're very interesting to me. And I think they're necessary until we get to a point where it's a non-discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That's one strategy to accomplish what we're looking to accomplish. And maybe it feels forceful in some ways, but it's actually necessary to create change. There's no other way at times.
Sometimes you have to force people to be smart, Carm.
You're right. You're exactly right on that.
All right. Let's have a little bit of fun here, given the current environment of being in quarantine and self-isolation. What is your go-to quarantine meal?
Pizza.
That was easy.
Like you make it or you order it?
Order it. Don't make. I tried making it once. No.
Really?
Yeah, I have a go-to. I order from the same place. I order the same type of pizza every time. So.
Do you like pineapple on your pizza?
Love.
Ooh, that's a controversial opinion. We can click that.
Don't you dare.
Tancredi, that is an Italian last name.
I hate garlic. What else do I hate? I hate things that are Italian.
Wow.
Yeah, garlic, number one. No, too much. Pineapple, everything. All the time.
I will bathe in garlic.
Same.
No, Andy. Carm, we don't have to go there. Carm single days. Just bathing in garlic.
Carm single days? What, did you bathe in garlic? What did you do?
She was going to embarrass me at one point, so here it is. No, nothing's happened. She made that up.
You call him BS.
I believe you.
Oh, I went red for you.
I love it. Whose turn is it?
It's Laura.
Which Celine Dion song are you belting out when you're alone?
The Reason.
How's it going? How's it going?
Yeah, can you sing a little for me? I don't know.
True fan. You are the reason. You are the reason I wake up every day and sleep through the night. You are, right?
Yeah.
I'm feeling that.
I'm impressed. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
I've never actually heard that one. You're right. You're a
They don't have it on the karaoke machines. You actually just have to sing it on the microphone.
You've requested it, so you know.
Yeah.
Have you seen Celine in Vegas?
Oh my gosh, I have.
Okay, you truly are a diehard. Was it a great performance?
Wow.
My mom bought me tickets for my birthday 2 Christmases ago. And I brought my mom, myself, and my partner, and my mom and myself loved it. Julia, she hated it because she couldn't hear a thing. She just ruined every song for her.
That is awesome. Oh, that is awesome. That is good. We're clipping that singing part, by the way.
100%.
Feel free.
Serge Ibaka's doing that whole like you got talent thing right now. We're gonna submit your video.
Who's Chewbacca?
No.
Oh.
I can't.
This is a Star Wars edition. What is this?
Yeah, you're right.
What is that?
Oh,
Serge. Yeah.
I know Serge.
Yeah.
Go Raptors.
Their buddies. Okay.
Carm, your turn. That got derailed. Yeah.
Yeah, totally derailed. Honestly, Zoom could not handle your voice. It like cut out the whole time.
Really? I'll go again.
No, it's all good. It's all good. The next one. What's your go-to quarantine workout? I think I know the answer, but what is it?
I don't think I've done anything more than 3 times, but I'm going to say F45.
Oh.
Nice.
I used to do those.
Easy, very easy.
Yeah. You're doing
That's
that. And you're
it.
doing this at home now?
At home, yeah.
Okay.
Right on the patio. That's it. Got my little square. I need something that I don't have to move much, right? So
Yeah.
I was doing a little beach body, like Insanity, but it was starting to hurt the knees a bit. So
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
hard.
Yes. I've done it recently. No.
what was your guess, Carm?
Metcom. Met conditioning. I thought you
Oh,
did that type of workout that you like, metabolic conditioning. I thought you were all about it.
yeah, but I don't have much equipment, you know?
Feel
True.
like, yeah,
Good
when
point.
your workouts are kind of hardcore. I'm just like doing push-ups and sit-ups and stuff. Who is a former teammate that you'd probably strangle each other by the end of quarantine? So like you cannot be in quarantine with them. Where's Carm
Hands down, Rian Wilkinson. Hands down.
Why?
Just kill her. I'd kill her.
Oh,
We couldn't last. We had a 5-day European something. I was post-concussive, and we couldn't last. I couldn't even look at a screen before bed. I wasn't supposed to, but she was like, turn all the lights up. Like she was like, I had to go to the bathroom. Like she was driving and I asked her to go to the washroom and she refused to stop.
come on.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
Given it was my 3rd time within an hour asking, but I'm a small bladder, but that doesn't matter. You should stop for a friend.
She's just gonna hand you a bucket next time.
Yeah, she's terrible. We'd kill each other.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So okay, I thought maybe Carm, but I mean,
Oh no.
see, Carm.
Although Carm did say in your previous segment that we would not get along.
Yes.
Huh?
Drama.
Is that something you, what did you say?
Okay, we don't have to talk about it, but I thought we got along all these years. I don't understand
No,
what quarantine would change.
I'm going to go back to the Rian thing.
Yes.
Because it's so true. Can you tell the headlamp story just for Rian? Just I know she's watching, and just give her one shout out, and then we're going to move on.
Well, the fact that if you would walk into Rian's room at any time and she was wearing a headlamp and knitting, that's all I have to say. That's it. We don't get
Rian,
along.
I'm sorry.
Rian.
We just need to get out there. Move on. Move
She
on.
wears like the miners, like the headlamp with the miners wear when they
like the
cave.
camping one.
That's Rian. You gotta love her.
That's Rian.
I'm not gonna lie. I feel like that could be a bit of a genius move when reading in bed, and you could just
It is.
Yeah, that's a
Andy.
good idea.
Yeah.
maybe the two of us would actually get along in quarantine.
Totally.
So there you go. See, having a little bit of fun. I like these kinds of stories, right? All right. So let's go back again. Playing days. The every time we think about the women's national team, we always think about again that squad. Really, that was part of the 2012 squad. 2016 for sure, but 2012 because it was the first time, on the Olympic stage where you stood on the podium. And with any sport, you always tend to compare any current squad to the squad that was the most successful. So anytime anyone talks about Team Canada, it's always that squad I find from 2012. Where do you see this current squad and maybe sharing some of those similarities that maybe give you some belief that there can be a repeat or even a progression in their success on the world stage?
Well, I feel like this team is, in terms of progression, well beyond what we had talent-wise in 2012. What gives this team the edge, I think, is just the edge. Like, these players have been through a lot. They've been through big tournaments. Our youngest players have been through some of the biggest tournaments. We have a backbone of veterans that have, been through everything since even 2008. And they've all bought into what that team stands for, or what our team stands for now. They have the Canadian grit. They have, the mentality of we're always an underdog. what is going to progress them beyond is their talent. They're much faster. They're much more talented. They're playing more formations than we ever had played. Their understanding of the game is well beyond what we had in 2012. The coaching, I think, is a little bit different in that it's more allowing them to be themselves, more of a hands-off mentality. You guys, go ahead and be your creative beast that you are. And you've seen that in some of the qualification games that they just played. The scoring that we've got going on across the board is pretty insane. So I think just that's pretty much it. I think the progression is basically based on the fact that they're better players.
Yeah. What does it mean to still have Christine Sinclair on the team and mentoring as well, a young group coming through? Again, when I had a chance to speak to her and I talked to her about the postponement of the Olympics, it was right away she put herself back into training mode and get ready for next year. And this is someone who's going to be around, for a while. What does it mean to have someone like that as the veteran presence, the mentor?
I think, in games, it's its own beast, but I think where Sinky really sets the tone is in training. I think the fact that she gets up and trains 100% every single day, I think that's where you get the buy-in of the players. You see the young players look up to her and they're like, man, this girl's giving everything in training and she's, twice my age. But I think that's where Sinky kind of puts her mark down and really sets the standard for the team. I think in game situations, she's clutch. When it comes to any sort of pressure situations, you have somebody who's been there, done that, and can get through anything and get this team through anything. But for me, as a player and seeing it now as well, with a lot of youngsters coming up, it's just what Sinky brings in that day in, day out training mentality.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a lot of the 2012 players graduate already. There's about a handful of them left that maybe, after next Olympics, we might have to say goodbye to, or in the next 4 or 5 years. When you think about sort of the next group of players, who are you seeing come out as leaders in that group that will continue to sort of lead this team in the way that you guys did maybe from, in the previous decade?
I think the first name that comes up is Kadisha Buchanan. She's pretty much very Sinclair-like in that she's not very much a vocal leader, but really leads by example, has the heart, has the grit, has the story behind her, never say die attitude. That's somebody that you're always going to look up to. Even at my age, I was looking up to, and she's a phenom on the field. But seeing Kadisha, Ashley, Jessie Fleming, Janine Becky coming into her own now, and seeing these players kind of just take this team and carry it at times is pretty special. And it shows that they do have these leadership qualities, so that when you take away all these vets, they're going to be there, and they I guarantee you they're going to do special things and take this team to a different level, because they're just beginning, and it's exciting to watch them grow. What Ashley has done in like a year, what that girl's become in a year is pretty insane. So to allow them to have the leadership qualities, to allow them to grow without a Sinky or without any sort of veterans, is going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah. Who is your mentor? Because again, you asked this younger group. They're going to mention a lot of the names from that 2012 roster, but who did you look up to? Who was somebody you admired?
Always Sinky. Carm. Sorry, it came out Sinky, but I was looking at you. Oh, no, that was weird. No, it was always Sinky. She was younger than me. I grew up playing with her. She was always the younger girl on our team. But when I joined the team and saw her in that position, even though I started as a defender at that time, but watching her and watching what she does in training, and for me, it was the finishing. I always watched, like literally just sat and watched her finishing and how she took her first touches. And still to this day, I kind of analyze her. But how she kind of just basically carried herself on the field. She was kind of my mentor. And then I just brought the crazy emotional part to it on the field.
I mean, if you're going to study a goal scorer, not a bad one to take on for sure. But can you talk about your partnership with Sinky? I mean, as much as you talked about admiring and looking up to her, to your point, we all really did. What was it about your relationship on the pitch that really started to flourish? Like, how did you get to that point? What did it take?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's because I studied a lot of her and I watched her a lot. Like when I'd go back and watch film, I'd watch a lot of Sinky as well. I'd watch her clips. and just learning her movements, just learning where she wanted the ball and just learning where she would be in moments, kind of allowed me to just play with my eyes closed and play that ball where she wanted it, basically. I think growing up also in the Evan regime where every time I got the ball was look for Sinky. I think having that mentality as well helps as well. But just basically growing with each other and having that trust. Sinky was the one who kind of mentioned my name to have a partner up front when somebody asked who do you want to play up front with. I was, working my way from defender to midfielder, and she mentioned my name and Evan gave me the chance. So having that trust in someone that that kind of looked up to me as well, or not looked up to me, but looked to me as a potentially good player. I think just having the ability to play every single day together and some long training sessions, as well as really studying her and giving her the best chance to score, is probably what allowed our relationship to grow.
When you think about it, like, what does it mean to you? You probably arguably played alongside the best international goal scorer this world has ever seen, as much as anybody else. Like, what is that? That's mind-boggling to me. Like, what is it? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I'm 38 and I'm knocking on Sinky's door asking her to sign a ball. Like, that's like still a fan. I don't know. Like, I'm so impressed with the woman. I am so lucky to have been able to train with her for so many years alongside her, play in some of the biggest games in my career with the best player in the world. Yeah, it's a dream come true, basically.
What would be the advice you would give young girls who are even getting into the sport of soccer? We've covered a lot of ground here, from playing to making it to the team to obviously having these incredible Olympic moments, to now jobs opening up away from, the fields of play. If you had to go and give, motivational speech to any young girl who is thinking of getting into soccer in any kind of capacity, what would that be?
Yeah, I think for me, it would be do it, enjoy it, and enjoy everything it brings into your life, whether it be the relationships, the life lessons, the technical ability, the strength. These are all things that sport has changed my life. So to have that opportunity to even start that at any age, I think is a privilege. And for anyone to think about joining soccer, I think try it. I think it's going to change your life. It's pretty incredible what team sport can do, and especially soccer, the world's game. It's very easy to get a ball and go out anywhere and play. And it's incredible what the sport can do for your life and for your health and for your psyche. It's just, I think it's a building block for any young female out there that is looking to basically progress in any aspect of their life.
And do you own a soccer ball? Because we've heard a couple of your former teammates don't in fact own soccer balls.
Can you believe that?
Hold on. Can you guess? Can you guess who doesn't own a soccer ball?
Current player.
Player.
Currently on the squad.
Currently on the squad, yeah. But one of your former teammates.
Well, we need to cut him real quick. Somebody who has to be a goalkeeper.
Yes.
That's pretty amazing that you guessed that. Yes.
You don't trust those people. They're not real players. What do they do? They put on the gloves and like shadow animals on the wall. Like, I don't know what you do for training for them. Like, they're not real.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Was it Labe?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It was. Yeah, it was pretty funny when she said that. We pretty much died, and the fact that you even guessed that is even funnier. I have to share that because my husband's a former goalkeeper. I'm going to tell him that's all he does is little shadow
animals.
Yeah, little shadow animals on the ball. That's all you do. What are you doing back there? Stop the ball. What's going on?
Funny.
I have 3 balls, by the way. 3.
Okay, good, great. That's important. Who was your backup goalie if somebody got chucked? Like, if you came down to it, who would it have been? You?
I would have said me, but I asked goalkeeper coaches and they say no. But I think I would be a great I think I was number 4 for years.
Yeah.
No.
I thought you were. I mean, who else would go and who else would do it? You sacrificed maybe a center back.
Yeah, I think Sinky wanted to because she had like hand-eye coordination, but I think we needed her up front as well. So
I didn't know she wanted to. That's hilarious.
Well, we know Janine is not an option.
What do you have against little people?
We'll take it back to Pan Am's. She couldn't get her shirt on. Remember? Yeah.
I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Some great times in Hamilton.
Aw, that is cute.
Hamilton.
Spent a lot of time sitting on the sidewalk in Hamilton waiting for the media bus to come. Like 2 hours it would take. It was great.
Yeah,
That's
we have to
awesome.
replay that. I completely forgot about that. I need to watch that footage again.
Yeah. Oh my
man.
God.
So
Oh wow. There you go. You're a real soccer player. You got balls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Laura.
No problem.
wow.
In soccer.
Melissa, if I were to ask you, like, what do you miss the most? Obviously, you know, you're happy with your decision. We talked about how you took 2 years off, but you weren't finished yet, and you came back and you played. You retired, but still, when you look back, just what do you miss? Even if it's, I don't know, the smell of fresh cut grass to just being around teammates. Like, what is it?
I'd say teammates, but I get to be around you guys a lot. So, for me, it's walking into sold out stadiums or walking on the pitch for an Olympic Games, you know, those big game moments, that adrenaline. I know, unfortunately, my life as a chiropractor won't give me that anymore, but I think that adrenaline rush of walking into a big game, yeah, I don't think you can ever make that happen again for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I can only imagine. I would never know what that feels like either. But how spectacular that is. And I mean, listen, a lot of people too, they can miss it to a point once they retire where they can be in a really bad place mentally. You know, so it's, I mean, to deal with that as well and be happy with your life decisions, I think is something that should also be commended, because I don't think people realize how tough it is sometimes to walk away. When you've tasted something like that and experienced something like that, and then it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it was always just like my friends, but I've just made sure I kept them around. Like, it was very, you know, I would do anything for our teammates. It was genuinely about you guys, like people, you know, I just miss the people. I don't miss the training, the adrenaline. I'm good without it.
Really?
Interesting.
Totally. I miss you guys. That's it.
We talk about media. We get an adrenaline rush before we go live on air.
You have to shut up, usually. Stop talking. Stop giggling.
All right. Well, Melissa, it was great walking down memory lane with you, sharing some stories. I feel like we can get more dirt on Carm. So,
different segment for sure.
A separate segment, or maybe it'll be off camera and our own little happy hour whenever you're back on this side of the country. Yeah, we're going to do that. But so great. If you tuned in halfway on our YouTube channel or right near the end, don't worry. We're going to be posting it on the One Soccer YouTube channel so you can catch the whole discussion with Melissa Tancredi, 2-time Olympic bronze medalist, Pan American Game bronze medalist as well, represented Canada at 3 World Cups and is still part of the national team, is a chiropractor. That was something else that we discussed, right? Just the other avenues for women to take once they're done playing. And you know that motto, if you see it, you can be it. So it's all about continuing to be role models for young girls. Melissa, it was a pleasure having you on. Thank you to everybody joining in. Some other great stuff on the One Soccer YouTube channel. We have the Hangouts. Gareth Wheeler has some great one-on-ones. And of course, happy hour. See you next week.